Well, hello and welcome back to the Common Farm Flowers channel. Today I'm cutting a really challenging mix and I thought you might enjoy to come along with me. I'm doing the flowers for a funeral in a rather grander church than my previous piece, which were just ordinary Sunday flowers for the village church. We have another church nearby, St Mary's in Bruton. It's a big wool church. It's a lovely, lovely church. Obviously it's not made of church, but wool. But in England we call big rural churches in areas where there was a lot of wool growing back in the day. It's a wool church. So St Mary's is a big church, and originally it was part of, there was a priory or an abbey. I'm not sure which. Was it a priory or an abbey? In Bruton. Anyway, I think it was an abbey. And the church was the church for the abbey. The abbey's long gone. The abbey has now become King's School Bruton and has been so for 500 years. But the church is still there, and it's a really big, imposing building with the most beautiful pale blue and gold chancel. So I'm doing flowers that have got to hold their own against the pale blue and gold. They're going to stand on, there's a very pretty rood screen. I'll show it to you when I install tomorrow. They're going to stand on the rood screen, so they've got to fill the space between the pillars on the rood screen. And so there's got to be some wow factor, but the reason they've come to me is because the chap whose funeral it is loved his wildflowers, and he particularly loved campion. So we're going to have lots of campion in this mix, and so the challenge is to do arrangements where there's depth and wow factor to compete with the grandeur of the church, but the delicacy and the little wildflowers can sing through. So I love doing jobs like this, because I'm like, okay, this is challenging. How are we going to do this? What are we going to put into it? How much material do I need? I've got to really fit the space, all of that. So I thought you might like to come along with me. And this is sustainable church flowers, no floral foam, no wire, no plastic, all reusable mechanics. Actually, there is a little bit of wire to hold the buckets up. But anyway, I'll show you the process, and hopefully you will be inspired. This is funeral flowers, but this is also how we can do big celebration flowers without using any plastic. Because as customers, as flower growers, as florists, it is in our gift not to use plastic. Why would we have floristry businesses of any kind? Why would we use flowers that in a way that doesn't support the long-term survival of the planet? Good question. Anyway, I hope this is all on. Right, let's go cutting. The garden's looking sparkling, and there's lots to choose from. I think we'll have campion, daisies, not orchids. I think despite the fact this chap loved his wildflowers, I think Fabrizio would still probably divorce me if I started cutting orchids, but we've got lots of other wildflowers we'll cut. Anyway, come along, let's have some fun. And if you're new to the channel, you're very welcome. Please do subscribe, press the bell icon, and we'll tell you when we've got more clips coming up. And if any of the tips and tricks we give you along the way are useful, you can always buy me a coffee, or better still, join my club. And the links to coffee buying and club membership are in the blurb to all my clips. On we go. I'm starting a bit late because we've been to church. It's Whitsun Pentecost. So a good weekend to go to church. And I feel very villagey and citizenish and like I've done the right thing by going to church this morning, but I've got to get moving, so I'm starting off with the polytunnels before they get too hot. And I always park my trolley in the shade, Mrs. Worthington. so that the flowers I cut don't get too hot. The weather's been a bit cold for the last week or so, and the sweet peas have hated it. They've been sulking, but look, the sun's come out, and so have they. Excellent larkspur in the tunnel this year. We'll have some of that. The cow parsley is over, but the Amimagus will play that part in the design. Early June, of course, we have foxgloves. Very important. These are a few rogue in this bed, so I'll take the rogues and then a few more from the others where they live. So from here, this section, we're going to have some of those pink roses. Obviously, lovely Love in a Mist. Maybe we'll see about, I'm not sure about Sweet William, but remember it's a wild look, so we're definitely having some of that. You can hardly see it. Valerian, more foxgloves growing where they're supposed to. Always park your trolley in the shade, Mrs. Worthington. Always park your trolley in the shade. Now I've come down here with the loppers and the special snips to cut some crab apples for this lovely piece, because you can see there's a lot of low-hanging fruit here, and actually it gets in the way rather when you're trying to mow. So I'm going to cut them out of Fabrizio's way so he can mow easily. But also how beautiful and I think meaningful fruit, the fruit of a good life well lived in a funeral, I think. Little Philadelphus Belle Étoile for scent, for the lovely foliage, for long reaching branches, lots of reasons. And let there be oxeye daisies and buttercups. Corky fruited water dropwort. And campion for a man who loved his wildflowers. As well as shimmering sorrel to catch the light. The best place for moss in the summer, especially after a good deal of rain, which we've had, is by the pond. So I'm here mossing a little bit. But if you're lifting moss and you find a little pile of eggs like that, cover them back up. Keep them safe. Right, we're up at the top end of the field now. How about some lovely golden giant oats for height? Oh yes. And some reaching arabesques of Physocarpus for depth. Alchemilla mollis for zingy green. Oh yes. Right, there we have. It's a very attractive mixture. And it's going to make 2 large pedestals. And the top of the coffin. That's quite enough work for a Sunday Afternoon, time to go and roast a chicken. Toc, 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 for Sunday lunch. Morning all. Right, well I'm busy making my coffin top, and I've got a box full of jam jars and I've mossed it up, and I'm now wrapping round the edge of the box to cover up my workings branches of apples, and I'm tying them in carefully as I go. It's very important because I won't be in charge of this piece. I'm going to hand it over to Wakely's in Wincanton, and I don't want to give them any kind of floristry that they struggle with. So it's really, really important that this feels very firm to them. So I'm slightly over engineering my work here, because if I give Wakely's, who are one of the main funeral directors around here, a beautiful piece of foam-free floristry, which is not a fiddle for them to deal with. I think one of the reasons funeral directors are nervous of people like me is that they think they're going to be given work that's going to be a pain for them. So it's got to feel really solid for them. So I'm slightly over engineering the tying in, and I'm not going to film the whole piece because this is going to take a good deal of time to get right. So I'll fill you in from time to time and show you how I'm getting on. But I've got a bit more apple to go. It's a lovely base though, isn't it? It's really, the rest of it's going to, all those wildflowers I picked yesterday, and it mustn't be more than 6 inches high. It's a lovely start. Right, on we go. Oh, I'm having this is very, very calm, thoughtful thing to do, and I'm so grateful for this work because it is so important. And when you have an idea, you talk to the client, you have an idea, and you know who you're making the work for. It's so satisfying when it works as you go along. Anyway, I'll see you in a minute. I'll just get a bit more done. Next up, some physocarpus. Look how good it is with the red of the apples. Alchemilla mollis. All the time I have to remember it mustn't be more than 6 inches high. Very difficult. That's 6 inches. So it's a tiny bit, a bit will push through the top of the hearse. Ferns are lovely, and here's some rosemary. And now I've got a really good base there, so I can tuck the wildflowers in, and they should show up against the darker background. They should look, they won't look as though they're growing out of it, but they should look as though it's a possibility. Before I put any sweet peas in, put any wildflowers in, I'm just putting a few sweet peas. And the great thing about sweet peas, they've got really bendy stems. So I can tuck them underneath the other stems and it'll force them lower. And so they won't stand up straight. They're very amenable, sweet peas, to being pushed to keep themselves. So I've got to keep within my 6-inch rule. Easier said than done. Well, it's coming along quite nicely. Slowly, slowly. Don't rush these things. It takes, so far, I've been working on this, it's 10 to 8, and I've been working on this since 6:30. So it's a slow and thoughtful process. There, it's nearly done. I'm going to leave it now to settle a bit and do the other pieces. Don't think that they are falling down. They are held. They are being encouraged. Imagine the people looking at this are all sitting down here, so they don't see the top. So you've got to remember what people look at with coffin tops. No buttercups in it yet. in a minute. So there we are. That's finished. I'll just give you some detail. All these little wild people tucked in. It's quite simple mechanics, and the wildflowers are very small. That's the difficulty, is to have some wow factor with such dinky ingredients. And that's where the sweet peas come in, because they just give, though they're the most delicate things in the garden, more or less, they give a little flourish of weight against which the wildflowers can sing. Right, I'm gonna make the pedestals. They're here, and just leave the camera rolling. So I'll put some, if I remember, I'll put some music. I keep forgetting to put music, and people don't mind. But it's a Monday morning here in sunny Somerset, so the tractors are roaring up and down. The rubbish men are coming, so you might not hear so much bird song. You might hear quite a lot of other stuff. Anyway, I'm going to make these pedestals, and I know people like to see how I do it. Actually, I'm going to put you on the Whizzy Whizzy, otherwise this is going to be 14 years long. So I'll put the Whizzy Whizzy on, and then I'll show you when I'm done. Right, they're done, I think. What do you think? I've made them on this table out here because 1, it's in the shade, 2, I've got enough head height, and 3, it's quite a high table, so I have an idea of what they're going to look like in the church. We'll go and install them and show you what we've made, whether it works or not. I think they'll do. So this is much grander than our little village church. This is St Mary's, Bruton.